Good morning, students. Today we will study about the feedback amplifier. So first, we should know what is the feedback. Feedback is the process of injecting a fraction of output energy of some device back to input is known as the feedback. So in feedback, we take a part of output and connect it back to the input. If it in this process known as the feedback. So again, in feedback, part of output, if we sorry, in feedback, if the part of output connected back to the input, then this process is known as the feedback. And feedback is used to enhance the system performance. So generally, a feedback here we will study the feedback about the amplifier or electronic devices. So if a portion or total output is feedback to the input of an amplifier, then amplifier is called as feedback amplifier. Means if a part of amplifiers, if the output of some part of the output of amplifier connected back to the input, then that amplifier is known as the feedback amplifiers. And there will be two types of feedback amplifier: positive feedback amplifier and negative feedback. Positive feedback and negative feedback. So positive feedback is also known as regenerative, whereas the negative feedback is known as the degenerative. It is known as regenerative because it will increase the resultant signals. It is known as degenerative because after feedback, the total or resultant signal will be decreased. So negative feedback used in amplifiers, whereas positive feedback used in oscillators. So these are the applications of feedback, positive feedback and negative feedback. Again, positive feedback used in oscillators, whereas negative feedback used in amplifiers, right? So what is the positive feedback? So in positive feedback, if the input signal and the feedback signal, if the input signal and feedback signal both are in same phase. Same phase means there should be a phase difference between the input and the feedback signal should be 0 or 360. If there is 0 degree phase difference or 360 degree phase difference between the input signal or feedback signal, then we can say that both signals will be in same phase, and both signals will be same phase, then that type of feedback is known as positive feedback. Or in positive feedback, the resultant output signal, when we mix two signals, input signal and the feedback signal, so the resultant output signals will increase it, right? So in figure, this is the amplifier and this is the input signal. So input signals, this is the input signal and this is the feedback signal. So you can see here that input signal and feedback signal both are in same phase. That's why it is known as the positive feedback uh, process. So positive feedbacks increase the gain of the amplifier. This is the advantage of positive feedback. Yet it increases the gain of the amplifier. And basically amplifiers are also used, or amplifiers, the principle of amplifier is used to increase the uh, gain. But so this increase the gain, positive feedback concept is increase the gain amplifier. Although this advantage, we cannot use the positive feedback in amplifiers because the amplifiers positive feedback also increases the distortion or instability. Distortion means noise. It also increase the noise of the system. Means amplifiers generally used, for example, we know that amplifiers are used in communications. So when we transmit a signal from transmitting end to receiving end, the signal propagate through the channel from transmitting end to the receiving end, and in between, in the channel, the noise can add within the signal. So amplifier can also amplify this noise also, which is added with the signal in the channel. So at the receiving end, when we will receive the signal, we will get the information, as well as we will also get the huge noise, a lot of noise. So due to this uh, huge noise, a lot of noise, we cannot we cannot extract our signal exactly. Some information can be missed due to the noise or distortion. So that's why uh, in amplifiers, positive feedback is process is not used, because noise is also increased in the uh, positive feedback. So which will be uh, disadvantage of amplifier for the amplifier. And positive feedback also increase the instability. Instability means due to rise in temperature and other transistor parameters, uh, the transistors becomes unstable. So if we use the feedback, instability will also increase. So that's why the positive feedback is seldom used in amplifiers. And where positive feedback is used, positive feedback is used in oscillators. And negative feedback, so again the negative feedback is just opposite process of positive feedback. In negative feedback, if the input signal and the feedback signal are in opposite phase, then the feedback is known as the negative feedback. Again, if the input signal and feedback signal are in opposite phase, then the feedback is known as the negative feedback. Means if we talk about the phase difference, so there should be a 180 phase difference between the input signal and the feedback signal. So here in this diagram you can see that this is the input signal and this is the feedback signal, and there is a 180-degree phase difference between the input and signal and the feedback signal. So we can say that both signals are in opposite phase. That's why uh, this feedback is known as negative feedback. And in negative feedback, the resultant amplitude of the signal is decreased. That's why it is known as degenerative feedback. And the advantage disadvantage of negative feedback is reduces the gain of amplifier. This is the biggest disadvantage of negative feedback. Although due to disadvantage, negative feedback is used in amplifiers, because it has several advantages which can overcome this disadvantage, that it reduces the gain of amplifier. So it has number of advantages, such as like as the stability is increased. After using the negative feedback, stability is increased, gain bandwidth of the signal amplifier is increased, input resistance and output resistance are can be changed, depends on the type of topology we can use. So due to the lot of disadvantages, negative feedback is used in amplifiers. So uh, amplifier, now we will study the principle of negative feedback amplifier. Means to study the principle of negative feedback amplifier, we will see that what effects of negative feedback on the amplifier. So here we can say that first we will study the amplifier without feedback. So this is the amplifier, input is Vi, output is V naught. So we know that the gain of amplifier is denoted by A. So gain of amplifier is the output upon input. So there is the output is V naught and input is Vi. So the gain of amplifier can be written as V naught upon Vi. So this gain of an amplifier without feedback is also known as open loop gain, because there is no loop exist between the input and outputs. That's why it is also known as open loop gain. Whereas if we applied the feedback, so what happens if we apply the feedback with amplifier? So in this diagram you can see that this is the amplifier, this is the feedback network. So we take the some part of the output through the sampling, go we connect it to the input through the feedback network by the help of mixer. So in amplifier, when amplifier is used with feedback, we require necessary signals are required: amplifier, feedback network, sampling network, and mixers. These are the necessary uh, blocks which are required in the when the feedback is used in amplifiers. So again, this suppose this is the output and this is the input. So again, the gain of amplifier with feedback AF. Here AF is the gain of amplifier with feedback. Again, this will be the output upon input. So output is V naught and input is Vs. So again, this will be the AF is known as V naught upon Vs. And this AF is also known as a gain of an amplifier with feedback is also known as closed loop gain, because there is a closed loop between the input and output because the feedback network is connected. So here beta is the feedback network whose value is always less than 1. So through this diagram, since we have used the negative feedback, so the input signal and feedback signal are should be in the opposite phase. And when the input signal and feedback signals are in opposite phase, the resultant signal here, the resultant signal we will get the difference of these two signals, right? And the feedback signal will be the beta times of V naught, where beta is the fraction, feedback fraction. So since we can say that the part of output goes back to the input, so beta denotes that part of output. This will be 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1. It is always less than 1, right? So if the feedback signal Vf is connected in series with the input signal, again we have said that here we will get the difference of these two signals. So here we will get the Vi can be written as Vs minus Vf. Now we have know that A is equal to V naught upon Vi. A is equal to V naught upon Vi. A is equal to V naught upon Vi. We have already studied. So we can say that V naught is equal to AVi. So again, put the value of Vi, put the value of Vi from here. So value of Vi is Vs minus Vf is putting here. So again, we know that Vf is equal to beta V naught. Vf is equal to beta V naught. So put the value again Vf here. So we will get V naught is equal to A Vs minus beta V naught. And again, rearranging this equation, we get V naught 1 plus A beta is equal to A Vs. Again, rearranging this equation, V naught upon Vs. V naught upon, here we can, from this equation, we get V naught upon Vs is equal to A upon 1 plus A beta. V naught upon Vs is equal to A upon 1 plus A beta, where V naught upon Vs, V naught upon Vs is known as AF. V naught upon Vs is known as AF. So this is AF. Where what is AF? AF is the gain of amplifier with feedback. And what is A? A is the gain of amplifier without feedback. So from this equation, we have concluded that the gain of amplifier with feedback is reduced in negative feedback amplifier by factor 1 plus A beta. So this is the disadvantage of a negative feedback amplifier. And the principle of negative feedback amplifier, we have concluded again, uh, when we applied the negative feedback in the amplifier, its gain will be reduced. Its gain will be reduced, and the gain will be reduced by the factor 1 plus A beta. So although disadvantage, there are a lot of advantages of negative feedback. So which can overcome this disadvantage. So and due to lot of advantages, negative feedbacks are used in amplification. So if you have any problems, if you have any comment, if you have any uh, problem or doubts, you can write your doubts or questions in the comment box, and then I will give the answers to those comments, to those questions on your through your mail. So okay, thank you. Stay tuned and keep learning. Okay, goodbye.